Hi, stream. I'm pretty sure you didn't hear Hex there at the end, but if, let's just say you had to be there. Anyway, hello. This is Star Trek Kasumi, Session 4. We're a Lost Era game of Star Trek adventures set in the year 2338. And in general, we're coming up on part 2 of a two-parter. And we'll get to that summary in a few moments, but I already see that we have evil Q powers, so we're just going to get right into things after some quick introductions. So let's start with Captain Kaya, and then we'll go around and get everyone to introduce themselves and their characters. Oh, hey, you also just got a good from chat as well, so hey, you're 2 momentum. Look at that.
Just make up your mind. Hello, I'm Professor X. I play Captain Giasakaya of the USS Kasumi. I have a bum leg. The captain, not myself. And if this episode is anything to go by, I'm probably going to get another one. So let's see someone being crippled in real time, huh?
Hi everyone, my name is Alex. I'm playing Lieutenant Commander Zarin Taral, the ship's Elorian Chief of Security, and I don't have any physical disabilities. Yet.
Yet.
Well, speaking of characters with disabilities, my name is Matthew. I play Dr. Talia Shrev, an Andorian/Enar who is blind but sees through a combination of ocular implants and a kind of telepathic impression sense granted to her by her Enar heritage. I am the civilian science consultant on board the Kasumi.
And I'm Peter. I play the Denobulan Chief of the Boat, Nabak. And in terms of disabilities, I mean, my pinky and ring finger got switched in a transporter accident. That's all I got.
So that's why you keep rolling 20s. It all makes sense now. All of it makes sense. And I guess if you don't know me by now, hi, I'm ELH. I do this way too much for my own good, and we're just going to go ahead and get started. So before we do the supplemental log, which will come from Shrev, I'd like to paint a picture for you all. So, and I'll let you know when that complication comes in, chat, don't worry. But basically where we left off was that the crew and the actual ship, the Kasumi itself, had descended into the atmosphere of a gas giant that was mysteriously named Purgatory. Wasn't a name that anyone had given it, wasn't a name that was contained with any database. It was simply just the crew scanned this system, and then all of a sudden it's named Purgatory. Nobody knows why. It just is. In any event, when the Kasumi and the away team traveled into the atmosphere of the planet, what they found was that beneath the cloud layer was a hellish landscape full of, for lack of a better term, demons, bad things, hellish oceans of blood. It gets worse and worse as time goes on. So just imagine these sort of like baleful clouds vomiting lightning at one another, oceans of blood red, smokestacks billowing baleful sort of smoke into the air. It's hell. But the Kasumi is floating above it all as the away team shuttle flies inside to the shuttle bay on the back of the Kasumi. And Dr. Shrev, if you would care to do your opening log.
Certainly. Having hacked out a few bits that would have summarized material that you've already delivered.
Oh,
no, not at all. I appreciate that. Chief Science Officer, still thrown off from that. Chief Science Consultant's personal log, supplemental. Having entered an uncharted system to investigate an orbital skyhook platform detected by long-range scans, the Kasumi uncovered an immense mining station yoked to the JH-class planetoid below. The crew now finds itself in the process of making first contact with the denizens of this world, Purgatory. Professionally, I should be enthused by the possibilities this encounter affords, but our away mission to the Skyhook, an irradiated and marred edifice, as if it had been sheared to pieces by titanic claws, has left me mortified. My cravenness on the away mission is simply repugnant. Some dim lighting, not that it should even affect me with my telepathic sight and ocular implants, was enough to break me into a mewling child crying in the darkness. My Shreya, my first mother, would be utterly ashamed. Being born blind, defective, ignoble enough, a sufficiently grotesque pockmark on the family honor, but to fall apart like that? My contribution to the glorious Andorian martial tradition. To my surprise, the captain, a career military officer, was gentle during my panic attack. Another thing to be ashamed of, I suppose. There's something terribly wrong with this planet, with the entire situation, with the entities, this visitor that lives here. Whatever our differences, all the members of the away team can feel it. This place, it's affecting us. And the crew as well. How, I don't know. We can't trust anyone, shouldn't. But I think that I might be starting to trust the captain. Now it's almost time to meet our guest, our visitor. End log.
All right. You may have one momentum for that lovely opening log. So, where we're going to start today's session proper is going to be in main sickbay of the Kasumi. And following along that sort of paranoid feel that we started off last session with and carried into this session, right now the only people in sickbay are Captain Kaya, Lieutenant Commander Troll, Master Chief Nabak, and Dr. Shrev, along with Lieutenant Commander Rel. Now, at this point, Rel has done pretty much every test he can muster, and at this point he's delivering his results. So, as he spins in his chair and has the computer activate quarantine procedures and more or less make it so that, well, nobody can hear you, he lets out a great sigh. And he says, "All right, Captain, this is going to be a little bit weird, but stick with me. So the ichor itself, or at least I'm calling it ichor because it kind of has the consistency of blood, but also oil. Anyway, it's perfectly harmless until you introduce it to organic matter." And he kind of turns and he picks up a sample container and shows you an apple. Now, the key difference between an apple that you're probably thinking of is that instead of it being shiny and red or maybe even a golden delicious, it is a metallic silver with no blemishes, no scarring, just pure metal. And he kind of shows it to you and says, "I replicated this apple maybe about 30 minutes ago out of the replicator. It was just a standard apple, nothing fancy. Exposed it to the liquid, it turned into this. And best I can tell through further testing, any organic matter that touches this liquid will basically turn into metal. But here's the funny thing. I don't really know how to explain this to someone who doesn't know medicine, so apologies if I go over everybody's head, but I don't think any information is lost. I don't think cellular memory is lost at all, which shouldn't be possible, but here we are."
Doctor, have you tried to expose anything that's actually still alive to it? Microbes, perhaps?
I have exposed some amoeba to it, and he kind of puts the apple back down and pulls up another sample container. Says, "I know you can't see it, obviously, as I'm showing it to you, but if you were to look under a microscope, you would indeed find that everything about the cell, from its mitochondria to its DNA, has been, for lack of a better term, metallicized, corrupted. I struggle to figure out what to call it."
Does it still function?
Oh, yeah. I mean, the amoebas are still swimming around in there, happy as can be. Well, for amoeba anyway. I would hesitate to go any further, though, without the captain's approval. And Rel looks directly at Kai at this. I do have some lab rats, well, lab tribbles that I could expose these to, Captain, but I don't want to do anything that you might consider inhumane.
Short of continuing this line of experimentation, you're right to ask because the ethics get a little murky, and we're moving up to the big leagues, as it were, beyond amoeba and such. But I think short of that, the quickest way of getting answers is to ask this prophet character. I mean, they're obviously connected to this planet somehow, the skyhook and so on. They've obviously got information. We're about to enter a diplomatic exchange with them, so why not just ask? Save you and the rest of the lab a lot of time and a lot of paperwork.
Well, that would be the most direct route, Captain. I just urge caution. Make sure that when you bring that whatever it was aboard, make sure they go through full quarantine procedures, because if even a drop of this liquid gets on anyone, I don't really have a cure for it. I don't have a way to reverse it, but we're talking minutes before the procedure is complete.
Is it able to permeate certain materials or membranes that we know of? Is there a way to stop it using, say, some kind of hazardous materials suit?
You know, it's funny you mention that, and it's going to sound strange, but anything that'll stop mercury in liquid form will stop this liquid.
I see. Right. So, what time have we got until the meeting, Taral?
We should have around 45 minutes left.
Dr. L, is that enough time to replicate some, let's say, exterior protective suits out of a mercury repellent material?
I think it could be done, but it would need to be everybody at this diplomatic meeting. Are you still holding it in the lounge?
That's correct. And it'll just be the four of us at this meeting.
I'll make a note to have a decon team go in there later. Are you going to be beaming them right to the lounge, or like I said, Captain, I might just be being too cautious here, but I've never seen anything this virulent before.
No, I perfectly understand your caution, and I second it. Is there a nearby unit on the ship that we can use as a sort of buffer space before we beam into the lounge, if it's a kind of temporary quarantine area?
Well, we aren't using Cargo Bay E right now. That should be sufficient.
Right. Set up's a kind of medical quarantine, sort of decontamination tent, and in the cargo bay, and that's where we'll keep our prophet character there until we've sufficiently determined that it's safe to transport them further.
As you wish, Captain.
Doctor, another question. If you have, do you have enough of a scan on the material that we might be able to perhaps filter it out through the transporter pattern buffer?
I believe so, but as with all things out here in the reaches of space, I've learned to be extra cautious.
Understandable. But I thought that if we perhaps were able to also take that precaution, it might be advantageous.
I understand where you're coming from, though I would caution against that. We don't exactly know the full nature of this substance and how it relates to our guests. It could be something vital to them.
That is also true. It could be an important part of their biology. My mistake. Thank you, Commander, for reminding me.
It's clear that this situation, above and beyond our normal considerations for first contact, is going to be delicate. I need everybody on their toes. They need to have their creative and cautious minds at work. That includes you, Dr. L. And as soon as you can get that decontamination space set up, the better.
Captain, if I could interject for a moment, might it not behoove us to communicate these concerns to the visitor before they arrive? It would be relatively simple to inquire as to the purpose of this material and inform them of the danger that it poses to us.
That's certainly possible, Dr. Chef, but something tells me that we don't want to give this being the leeway to come aboard our vessel without certain precautions being held. And as long as we are clear with them that this is standard protocol for all they know, I don't see why there would be any sort of objection.
One issue I can see with that, however, Captain, for whatever reason, the name of this planet was in our ship's systems. This entity may already know what our standard protocol is.
Well, if they do know that, then I would think, Lieutenant Commander, that they would know just about everything about us, and our best laid plans would be possibly moot. We have to operate on the assumption that we've still got information that they don't know. And so I think it behooves us to start with a little bit of obfuscation, and then, should the need arise, become clear.
I would also caution not to needlessly create a diplomatic incident out of this as well.
Well, thank you for reminding me, Toral. I was just going to up and punch the bugger directly in the face.
I'm merely saying we should use caution on all fronts, Captain.
Duly noted, Lieutenant Commander. Now, let's get that decontamination thing in place, and let's move.
Right. So, also, I do want to say real quick, thank you for the raid. Hopefully you had a good stream. I appreciate the raid. We can handle this one of two ways. Either we can have Mr. Rel. He can roll a control in medicine to...
Excuse me, he's Dr. Rel. He didn't go to 7 years of Starfleet medical training to be called Mr., okay?
This is true. This is true. Thank you. Dr. Rel can either go for a control medicine at a difficulty of 2, or you all can spend 2 momentum to set up not only the Cargo Bay E sort of decon chamber, but also the suits that you did request during that scene. So it's just the difference of, do you want to risk a roll, or do you want to just spend the 2 momentum and just say it's done?
If I may say, we've got to start early on those complications if we're going to beat last session's record. So let's do it.
Okay. Peter, you're our lucky winner today. You're going to roll for Dr. Rel.
Oh no, we're just asking for trouble.
Why?
Take a momentum because you want to get 3 complications.
Okay, what was the roll again?
Control medicine,
Control.
and he does have a focus.
It doesn't matter. Any number of dice, any number to meet, it doesn't matter. There's going to be 20s akimbo.
I mean, there's 2, and yeah, that's even without the momentum spent. So yeah, that's the 2 you need. So Rel actually sets up the decon chamber and has everything ready for you all to go pretty much on time. Has it actually maybe even 10, 20 minutes before it's necessary.
Well, he might be getting a raise.
There you go. All right, so our next scene, if I'm following the flow correctly, is going to be in the main lounge. Well, maybe not the main lounge, but a lounge. I mean, it's an ambassador class vessel. You've got a lot of them. So in terms of what your sort of, I don't want to call them full EV suits. I want to call them maybe something like, I don't know, a biosuit or something like that. Case in point, it's not as thick as your standard EV suit. It's not going to hold atmosphere, but it is something where it's kind of like a protective layer that all of you are wearing. And as the
Magic overalls.
basically. But as you're all getting situated in the lounge, most of the space has been evacuated. The chairs and tables have been moved, and at this point, you're just sort of waiting on a call, and it starts to get one of those awkward moments where you're kind of just looking at one another, like, where are they? Lieutenant Commander Troll and Nabak are both going to get a chirp on their comm badges, and your various departments are telling you that the transport is ready to energize on your command.
Captain, it seems the delegation is ready to join us.
Right. Make it happen.
Right. So, same sort of thing. We can either have Nabak's or Troll's people do the roll, or you can spend 2 momentum to just say it happens and that there are no ill effects. And this is going to be a theme tonight. If you haven't gotten the gist of it, this is going to be very much a theme.
And let's go for the roll.
Nothing to say, Dr. Shrev? No.
I was mouthing the words, the encouragements. I was using my telepathy to influence the decisions that were being made.
All right. Okay.
Mr. Troll, you're our lucky winner today. I'd like you to roll me a presence and security difficulty of 2, please. And this will represent you basically making sure that your personnel are on top of all quarantine procedures and otherwise not messing this up. If you have team dynamics, if you have team coordination, away team coordination,
Starfleet protocol.
Starfleet protocol would be. However, and I did not forget about the complication from chat, and this is where I'm going to introduce it. The complication will be that, let's just say, I think it's fair for me to say you're still a little bit paranoid, so maybe you go a little too far, and I'm going to let you define what that means.
I'm going to use 1 momentum to roll 3 dice on this.
Okay.
I would say what that complication means is on the beam-in, if it is successful, the entire delegation from the planet will be on the far side of the facility, bunched as closely together and as far from us as possible.
Okay. So basically beaming them on the opposite side of the lounge. I gotcha.
Almost right into the corner of the lounge.
Noted. All right, hey, that's 4 successes. That gets you 2 momentum back. Very nice. So what I'm going to say then is the beam-in process does begin, and emerging in the far side of the lounge are going to be 3 individual figures. Now, one of them is the Praetor, the visitor that you saw outside the vessel before you guys came inside. The other 2 look to be some form of lesser being. I mean, they have the same sort of general design where they sort of have that white carapace with sort of that dark or blood red undertone skin. You're not really sure. Kind of looks like muscle, but it also kind of has the properties of skin. It's really weird. But in general, they do look to be smaller in size, smaller in terms of both stature and in just overall mass. Which I might seem like a tautology, but I figure it's worth reiterating just to be on the safe side. In general, they sort of linger behind the Praetor, but as they beam in and the beam-in process finishes, the Praetor sort of looks around, kind of looks all around the lounge, finally settles on you four, and in a voice that is without modulation, in a voice that is perfectly translated by your universal translator, says, "Well, hello there. I didn't quite expect us to be meeting this far apart. Is everything all right?"
Yes, quite all right. We're going through some routine calibrations in terms of our transportation mechanism. There's nothing to worry about. We'll meet with you. Come along, and I'll gesture for everyone to sort of follow me as we make our way over towards them.
All right. So real quick, I do need to see where you all want to be positioned. So again, feel free to move your tokens about, but it's very important I know where you guys are positioned at this point.
I will be there basically, like, I would say 5 feet away from the praetor, right? Sort of looking at her between between these two tables here.
Okay. And you've got Shrev on your right, gotcha, and Nabak. All right, so you guys are more or less
Nabak is
forming a battle line. I gotcha.
Cowering in the corner. Good.
Mm-hmm. All right. So,
and just one thing that I'd
Go
like
ahead.
to add as I move up towards that table, keeping that between me and the Praetor, is that I would activate my ocular implants to scan the Praetor without actually withdrawing a tricorder to see if I can gather any kind of sense of external emissions, anything that might be communicating between them, not necessarily telepathically, but in terms of radio waves or radiation. Surreptitiously
very novel
scanning
idea.
them.
Yeah. Why don't you roll me let's call this a reason and science. I'm going to set this at a difficulty of 4. And if you have anything related to observation, sensor use, or anything of that nature, it would apply as a focus.
I do have sensor operations.
That would apply.
I'll use augmented ability reason.
Okay.
And
get
would
you
anyone
one to start with?
Anyone mind if I spent 3 momentum here?
Go ahead.
All right, so I need to see at least 3 on the dice here. Well, there's complication 1 for the night. I do only see 3 successes here. In fact, let me check that other 0, because I have a feeling.
I don't think so.
Remind me, is it 18 to 20 or 17 to 20 for augmented?
I think it increases the range by 2, so...
So it would be 18. Okay.
You remember that value that I challenged last session to get me an extra point of determination? I'm going to spend that now to re-roll those 2 complications.
Okay.
Sorry about this taking so long.
No, you're fine.
Science.
No
2d20. Focus.
There you go. So now you get a grand total of 5 successes, which means you get a momentum back, which I think puts you at 2 overall.
Yeah.
But what you're going to notice, Shrev, is that actually, yes, there is a form of radio communication that is very subtle and otherwise, I'm trying to remember the word for it. What's the word where, is it subvocal, where you don't actually vocalize, but it still kind of translates to actual speech or something along those lines? I'm trying to remember. I think it's subvocal. The point being is that, yes, they are communicating with one another in a way that is not audible to anybody, but you are seeing the radio waves bouncing from the Praetor to the lesser beings and back and forth, etc., etc. This is technically also a role in which you would get a free question. So what would your free question be?
Are they evil?
I mean, I don't know
Do
if
I
you'd be
see
able
their
to...
alignment aura?
Yes.
Now that I'm using my augmented vision, are they outlined in red?
Where are they on the order versus chaos spectrum?
What I'd like to ask is, can I ascertain the nature of the communication? In other words, is it almost like the signals are directing the other two in some way or controlling their actions, or is it reciprocal in that they are communicating back and forth?
And that is a very key distinction. Glad you figured it out. The Praetor is controlling the other two, but it's not like a master slave situation. It's more like the more you're sort of, I guess, looking at these radio waves with your special vision, what you're noticing is that it's similar to, say, let's use a drone in real life, where you have a controller and you're flying around the drone. Same sort of thing here with the Praetor, where they are controlling what are conceivably drones or beings without intelligence or really any higher functioning, but they don't appear to be in any distress. They don't appear to be otherwise subdued. They just don't. They're drones. I mean, I think that's just the easiest way to put it is they are drones.
Then, going off of the captain's permission that was granted at the end of the last session to employ telepathy to keep the group together, is there any way that I could communicate that realization to the captain without actually vocalizing it?
If you roll me a presence and a command, difficulty of 2, yes.
Okay, then I will give you 1 momentum if that's all right with everyone to make that roll. And applicable focus of telepathy.
That would apply. There you go. That's 4 successes, so you actually get 2 momentum back. Everybody, what are you going to tell them exactly, Shrev?
I don't believe that its compatriots are actually sapient. They seem to be some kind of drone. I can see the radio waves yoking them together. The Praetor is puppeting them.
Is this a two-way communication, or?
You spend a momentum. I'll let it be a 2-way.
No, I don't need to. I just wanted to know.
So was that? Was that only to the captain or to all 4 of us?
I would probably say it was just to the captain.
Okay.
Because she was the only one who actually gave me permission to do so.
Fair point.
Then I would kind of look off to the side at the doctor and sort of give them like a nod that could be easily interpreted as, okay, here we go, instead of I've received your transmission. And then I would turn to the Praetor and then I would say, well, greetings. We welcome you aboard the USS Kasumi, a starship created by Starfleet, an organization made up of many member species and worlds. And we welcome you and greet you in friendship and peace in the name of the United Federation of Planets.
And the Praetor nods and replies, well, formalities, I like it. My name is Praetor Katax, or Q, or whatever verbalization you care for. I'll respond to many things. I wish I could say things were as pleasant here. How to put it? These 2 behind me are actually, well, they're puppets of mine. I think you'll find that there's not really much life down here. It's more or less just me and a few others.
Timeout. I honestly don't know what to say to that because I thought of 3 different things I could say in response, but all of them sound like mildly insulting. So
I mean, hey, if you want to be mildly insulting,
I don't. I absolutely don't. Not when like, the Magic the Gathering version of the Archangel Gabriel is here, on the fucking ship. Okay, so I will collect myself. Yes, well, we had gathered that your entourage were, we would use the term drones, as it were, but regardless of how populated your people are there on the planet, I'm sure that we have a great deal of social, technological, cultural information that we can exchange with each other.
A reasonable exchange. Yes, I do like that idea. However, I must ask, do you normally wear such, I guess you would call them suits in your tongue?
In terms of what we call first contact with a species or a being that we, as under Starfleet in the United Federation, are unfamiliar with, just to protect ourselves against any sort of radiation or pheromones or that sort of thing, things that are obviously beyond your control per se, that are just byproducts of your existence or our existence. It's just a matter of course.
Ah. Then perhaps I should cut to the chase. And what is the expression in your tongue? Lay it all out, I believe is what it is. And at this, the Praetor sort of motions for his two drones, and the two drones actually crumple on the spot. And they're beamed away by an alien transporter. Not your transporter, just an alien transporter. And the Praetor says, "The planet you know is Purgatory. It is actually quite an apt name. Myself and the 2,000 or 3,000 individuals that live on the planet, or if you could even call it living at this point, we've all been lured here under the same pretense, much as you came here, probably for the skyhook. We all were lured here for more or less the same purpose. We saw an opportunity to mine dilithium. We saw an opportunity to basically obtain rare metals or hydrogen or everything the skyhook could provide. And we got curious. We came below the clouds. And as I'm sure, if I understand where this is all going correctly, you figured out before the rest of us did that you need to protect yourself from the liquid. Is that correct?"
Yes, our chief medical officer did surmise that, and we've taken precautions accordingly.
That would explain it then. Well, I will be blunt then. We're not prisoners here, but we cannot leave without a cure. Or at least a way that we could exist in a space like this, and Katak sort of motions around at everything. We want to leave, we can't, and we don't want to infect anyone else. So I don't know if this is the proper term for it, Captain Kaya, but we would like to request your assistance in this matter.
Forgive me for interjecting, Captain, but may I ask you, Praetor, what is it that actually prevents you from leaving? Is there some kind of effect of this metallicization process that would render it fatal to leave this planet?
It's not that we can't leave, it's that we choose not to. To put it mildly, we feel that if there's any chance of the liquid leaving this place, it's best not to encourage it, if you get my meaning.
A self-imposed quarantine, as it were.
There's a better way of putting it, yes.
That's a sensible reaction to something that, from what we've seen in our laboratory conditions at least, is it creates a pretty radical transformation.
Well, as I'm sure you've found out, it does metallicize the individual, and in fact, if you look at me, and he kind of holds his arms out, like both his two sets of arms out, and he kind of shows off his carapace. If you were to take a sample, you would find that all of this is metal. It may not look metal, but it is. And unfortunately, we've found no way to reverse the process, or otherwise, well, I'm sure if I were to touch one of you in your suits, you would be fine, but I hesitate to say that if I were to touch an unsuited individual, they might end up like myself.
Forgive me, but is it transmittable just from touch alone?
We're not sure, but what we do know is that those who are exposed to the liquid, well, let's just say that the previous crews and aliens and all that have been exposed to it, outbreak happened very quickly. Now, obviously, I could tell you are more or less following strict protocol and quarantine procedures. I don't think we have that sort of situation here. However, I would be very hesitant to leave this room, if you get my meaning.
I see.
Praetor, could you explain precisely how you've been affected, other than the obvious change to your physiology? I mean, what is the actual experience of the transformation, and what are its lasting effects?
Well, there is, how to put it? And again, at this point, I think I'm hopefully making it clear that if anyone were to check their universal translator, it's not coming across the universal translator more. Like, he is speaking Federation Common at this point. Like, he has been completely, on the board at this point. But as he searches for a word, he eventually says, I believe you would call it polygotism or polygot something. Point being, it does give us the unique ability to learn languages and speak them. It's my guess is your computer system naturally picked up the metal's transmission, and I don't know what your computers call it, but for us, it was some form of hell or some form of lower plane where the damned were sent. It was, not encouraging, to say the least.
Yes, our computer systems registered it as something called purgatory, which is a Judeo-Christian mythological element. So we experienced the same.
Well, and at this point, the Praetor steps back, not steps forward, but steps back and says, well, I do not know what you would need for really any aid that you could provide. If you need me to provide samples of the liquid, if you need myself or someone else to stay aboard for experiments, really whatever it comes down to is there's about 2,500 of us, and we want to leave.
Sorry, I've got to give up smoking. Praetor, would you excuse us for a moment? I'd like to conference with my crew privately, if I may, and then we'll get back to you.
Of course. Take all the time you need.
Thank you. And I'll sort of gesture for all four of us to kind of like cross the room again over to like the bar.
Football
area.
huddle in the corner. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. All right. I think it's clear, based on Starfleet protocol, based on every consideration, that we have to help these beings. They are clearly trapped on this planet, and they need a way out. Dr. Shrev, is there anything in your body of work, your knowledge, that could suggest that we can, if not reverse this process, at least contain it to those affected, create a kind of, well, let's say, the metaphor is not exact, but sort of perhaps a vaccine, if you will, for other people who come into contact with these creatures that they would not be affected by the metallicization.
Frankly, Captain, this is far from my area of expertise. In fact, I don't know if there's anyone in Starfleet who has an area of expertise in this kind of material science. It might benefit us if we were able to find the source of this material. It can't be naturally occurring. But as for some means of protecting them, other than creating some kind of individualized or personalized polymer shell to prevent any kind of physical contact between them and the outside world, my skills really wouldn't be all that applicable.
I see. Thank you, Doctor, for your frankness.
And gray matter, actually, that is an opportune complication the chat just gave me, because I think Shrev just hit the mark on the money, or the money. You know what I'm trying to say. The complication or the realization that's going to hit you is you're sort of looking at a horse before the cart or cart before the horse scenario, where unless you're able as a group to figure out literally medical science that would cause not a revolution, but it would be a very, very big deal, you are basically either dooming the people of this planet to remain on the planet or to forever be in spacesuits for the rest of their life. But they wouldn't be on the planet anymore, so hey, plus side there.
Well, the only problem being that if we do give them specially designed suits for all 2,500 people, that's a tall order, but not the tallest order that, Starfleet's ever tried to meet. If even one of those things fails, seal goes broken or whatever, then it's out there, and it's a crisis of galactic proportions. So,
speaking of problems of galactic importance, chat once again beats me to my own complication. Hey, Nabak, how's your right arm there, buddy? Oh, look at that. There's a tear in your right arm suit. You don't know how long it's been there, but it's there.
Captain, I don't like to bring up more bad news, but my suit's integrity has been compromised. So, at best, I can now be our medical experiment. At worst, well, I'll suddenly look more shiny.
God damn it. If we bring Dr. L in here, we're exposing him to this contagion. If we beam Nabak out, we're exposing the rest of the ship to this contagion.
Perhaps, Captain, I could create if we beam perhaps proper computer supplies, I could create an interface directly with sickbay. It won't be quite the same thing, as there is no way for the doctor to directly interact with me, but
yes,
we could implement a sort of mini sickbay, a triage center, if you will.
Let's get into contact with Dr. L. If there is a way that we can transport the materials that we need to administer to you in this room, in this lounge, and there's 0% chance of there being cross-contamination during the transportation, we need to get it done. And Dr. Shrev, I'm afraid you're going to have to step up and learn a little bit about medical science.
I am also familiar with some medicine in my spare time, so I can at least do some of the basics.
Well, thank God for small favors.
Shrev, I'm going to give this to you free. The reason I'm rolling challenge dice and a D3, you're noticing that the suits, again, with your augmented vision, because again, you see different ways, your suits are deteriorating. All of your suits are deteriorating. The captain's is on the verge of a breach.
And I think that Shrev will immediately slap her comm badge Dr. Shrev to Transporter Room 1, beam all the captain, Lieutenant Terral, and myself behind a quarantine field in sickbay immediately.
And I'm just going to let that there be a pause, because there is a pause. Nobody answers. And then you remember that one horrific demonic scream that you heard at sort of near the end of the last episode? You hear that again.
No.
Is it coming from outside?
Yep.
Oof.
It's
Peek out the window.
on the wing. There's something on the wing.
And actually, if you look outside out of the lounge's viewports, you do see that there are a large number of those same drones that the Praetor had. Now, they're not attacking the ship, they're just sort of floating outside, but you do notice quite a large number of them.
That's encouraging.
Captain, our suits are beginning to degrade. We have to get out of here now before they fail.
Well, clearly your emergency call didn't work. Let me find the nearest panel.
All right. Nabok, this is going to be a daring engineering difficulty of 3. And if you have anything related to transporters and replicators,
I do.
I would also say that Lieutenant Commander Troll, you're being a security personnel, if you want to assist, you can do a daring and security on your end.
While they're doing that, the captain will make her way briskly over to the Praetor and ask as calmly as possible, what is the meaning of that?
Oh,
and
dear.
gesture towards all the drones.
Right. That is why I sent my drones away. I was afraid of that. Well, something you should know is that the drones themselves aren't something that I or really anyone else creates. The metal creates them of cadavers, of dead, deceased individuals. And when the metal senses that another is about to join the Great Flock, as it calls it, they do this.
Quick question.
Yes.
Would starship construction be an applicable focus?
Yeah, you're looking for a specific panel. You're looking for a bit of wiring. Yeah, this would definitely be starship construction.
I would like to use a momentum to get one more die.
All right. Well, hey, Troll's got a critical success, so... And as you roll, hey there, Tempest Thema.
Of course
we're sort of doing both right now. We're both... I look away to say hi to Chad, and what do? You roll a complication. Why?
I've got skills.
Why? Well, you did get 4 successes, so you at least get a momentum back. And the complication is going to be that Troll and Nabok, when you open up the panel, yeah, you find the transporter control, or you find a way to start the transporter, but there's a problem. You remember Cargo Bay E, how you set it up as a quarantine field? Let's say Lieutenant Commander Rel is currently venting and or sterilizing that entire cargo bay for reasons you don't know, but apparently is doing so. So you still can beam to sickbay directly, but you've got no buffer room anymore.
Fantastic.
Mm-hmm.
I think Terral would relay this to the captain and ask, Captain, what are your orders?
Dr. Shrev, Nabak, are these suits still of a certain integrity that they could protect us in the vacuum of space?
That's not what they were designed for.
They're not extra vehicular suits, Captain.
How long can a human being, an Einar, a Denobulan, the lot of us, survive out there in the vacuum?
Captain, couldn't we just beam ourselves into a shuttlecraft? It's sealed. It's a separate environment.
That is a fair point, Doctor.
Obviously, Nabok couldn't come with us, but the 3 of us might be able to. I mean, if we're not carrying the contagion on ourselves, or if the suits stop degrading.
I don't want to leave them, Chief. I don't want to leave you, but I think we have to. Stay
Understood,
here,
Captain.
stay on communications, and the minute anything goes awry, you let us know.
Certainly, sir.
We're coming back for you. All right, transport us into one of the Type 6 shuttlecraft.
All right, Captain.
All right. Very important role for you there, Mr. Nabak. Let's break it down. So, this is going to be a control engineering assisted by the ship's sensors engineering. So, Trawl, if you want to get the sensors engineering of the ship. Let's define difficulty here. So, the base difficulty is a 2. However, you are not on a transporter pad. It goes up by 1. Your destination is not a transporter pad. It goes up by 1. At this point, you're looking at a difficulty 4 roll. And if that wasn't bad enough, I'm going to spend just a couple momentum threat to make the complication range an 18 to 20.
And the ship doesn't help you.
No, the ship still helps you.
No, it rolled
He
a
just
0.
rolled for it.
Oh.
No, it doesn't, because of course it doesn't.
Quick question for you mechanically. Do Type
Yes.
6 shuttlecraft not have transporters themselves?
No, especially not.
Not at
And
this
this is
point.
something I deliberately did research
Looked
on.
up, yeah.
Type 6s do not, even into the TNG era.
Okay.
Yeah. It's only the type.
And unfortunately, you do not have advanced sensors. You have high resolution sensors, but it's not advanced sensors, which would lower the difficulty. So, yeah, Nabak, I need to see 4 successes here. No pressure, of course.
Okay. How much momentum do we have?
You've
3.
got 3.
Okay. Definitely getting at least 1 die. I don't remember if 3 does 2.
3 will give you 4 dice total.
Do we want to do that? I think it might not be the worst idea.
Hey, you just got a momentum from chat as well.
Okay, so then we'll do that. I would imagine my focus and transporters comes into effect.
Most definitely.
And if I could use a point of determination with my value, the crew protects its own.
Yep. So that'll start you with 2 free successes, and it would cost 2 momentum to get a 4th or a 3rd die here.
Okay. So just so that I've got it straight, 3 die so far because we've used 2 momentum to do that.
Mm-hmm.
My point of determination. And we have how much momentum left?
2, which you would have to give
Okay.
me 2 momentum and 1 threat to roll 4 dice.
Okay. Let's say the crew. Yay, nay.
You need 2 successes
this
on
is
3
difficult.
dice.
Hmm?
You need 2 successes on 3 dice, so you could probably do it.
Okay. I mean, I've got the stuff from the value as well, so.
Can I assist with my command discipline?
For advisor.
Yes.
I'll say yes, but I'm going to make the complication range larger if you do.
I mean, what does it matter? Yes. Okay. Yes. I accept that stupid bargain. So
Alright. So, Kaya, you can assist with a presence and command. And what that'll mean, Peter, is that since Kaya has advisor, you will be able to re-roll 1 d20 if you wish. But let's see what you roll first to see it. Peter. Do you hate? Why? Every roll.
Mm-hmm.
Every roll.
Great. Every time it's important.
Well,
here's my suggestion. The lounge that we're currently in, we just vent that into space, and then just solve this whole problem. We don't have to experience any more complications. Everything's great.
well,
Does my composure focus apply to this assistance?
I would say it does, yes. Okay, so Nabak, you can re-roll that complication with advisor. You are at 5 successes right now, so you do get a momentum back.
Okay.
So in D&D, you confirm your crits. Here, you have to confirm your complications, I guess.
Yes.
Right. Oh, we confirm them.
Oh, yeah.
We double and
Okay.
triple check them.
Okay, hey, look at that. That is a crit, actually. So that's another 2 successes for a grand total of, what is that, 7? Yeah, I think that's 7 if I can do my math correctly. So, what's going to happen then is everybody but Nabak is going to beam away to the same Type 5 shuttle because it's funny to me and it's already prepared, so you know.
Type 5
But-
shuttle.
Type 6, sorry.
How dare you.
But Nabak, as you finish beaming them away, and you can confirm they've arrived safely, the Praetor doesn't, like, loom over your shoulder or anything, but he kind of floats on over and just sort of looks at the space where the 3 just were and says, "Oh, I was afraid of this. This is how it happened last time."
Oh no. How the whole process began with you?
Not with me specifically, but one of the infected, yes. I thought if I was precautious that it wouldn't happen again, but, yes, I believe this is my fault.
Perhaps. But
And with that, we're going to take a 5 to 10 minute break. We'll be back shortly. Stick around. Welcome back, everybody. If you're just joining us, metal bad, metal plague bad, containment failing, medical urgencies, asylum seeking 2,500 individuals. It's all sorts of badness.
Fire good.
Fire good. Fire is very good. Whether that works on metal, not sure. Anyways, what I mean to say is that, well, the gang met with the Praetor, the visitor, whatever you want to call him at this point, and very quickly found out that their precautions to prevent the corrupting agent that is present on this planet from spreading has apparently failed. So, in an act of desperation, Nabak has beamed Trawl, Kaya, and Shrev to a Type 6 shuttle in which it is a quarantine environment, leaving Nabak behind in the lounge with the Praetor. So we resume our session with all 3 of you, Trawl, Kaya, and Shrev, in the Type 6 shuttle as the beaming process completes.
Well, we have a few options here, people. And as far as I can tell, they're all equally shite. Option 1. We somehow, we get in contact with sickbay and we arrange sort of by proxy enacting the Bach's original plan of transferring medical technology over to the lounge and essentially leaving him to work on himself under the direction of Dr. L. Option 2. Since we've already been exposed, we head down to the planet and, following Dr. Shrev's suggestion, find the source of this material itself and see if there's something we can do to stop it spread at the very least. Option 3. We could just... Never mind. Strike option 3. You don't want to hear it. So, thoughts, votes?
First off, Dr. Shrev, can you tell our suit's still degrading?
Either visually or by removing a tricorder from her belt, can she assess that, their integrity?
It stopped degrading.
We should be safe, Captain. I think it's a result of the Praetor's presence. I didn't detect any kind of radiation emissions or the like, but being in her presence certainly seemed to have compromised our protective suits.
Which, if that's the case, then that raises the further question, If we go to the planet's surface, will they start degrading again?
I certainly wouldn't recommend leaving the shuttle.
What materials have we got on this thing? We've got some. Do we have some kind of manipulation arm? Any kind of exterior interaction with the environment?
All we have are tractor beam emitters.
That may be all we need. Right. Let's get Thrall. Get in contact with sick bay. Let Dr. L know that Nabak in the lounge needs their help. Tell them to create a constant, secure channel between each other, and tell Dr. L to get, as soon as possible, working on some kind of inoculation, or at the very least, some kind of material that will stay this process, at least for a little while.
Aye, Captain.
Dr. Sheriff,
Yes, Captain.
in your expert opinion, if you were an infectious liquid, it's an ichor, if you will, that turned people into metal, where would you be?
Well, Captain, I can't place myself in the shoes, I think is the human expression, of a non-sapient liquid.
Don't
but
be ridiculous. Liquids don't wear shoes. You know that.
Thank you for the correction, Captain. I appreciate that. I was going to say, however, it seems as if the orbital skyhook was designed to mine not just dilithium particulate matter and other minerals on this planet, but also the ichor itself. It's likely tapped into a vein of the material. Perhaps we could conduct detailed sensor scans of its drilling apparatus and locate the source of this material.
Good. Make it happen.
Be nice if we were in contact with the Kasumi herself. She has far more advanced sensors than this vessel.
We can try, but I'm afraid we'll probably end up just under our own power here. All right, I'm getting in the cockpit, as it were, and I'm steering this thing out of the shuttle bay and towards the planet. Anyone have a problem with that? Good. Let's get to work.
As you all depart, we're going to go back to that there lounge.
Boy.
So, Nabak, I mean, at this point, I am going to say...
dead.
No, Nabak is actually fine. I mean, at this point, Nabak's suit is more or less fallen into tatters and is kind of like slawing off of his limbs, but... I mean, it's not like you went in there naked. You still have your uniform on underneath. It's just that you don't have the protective suit anymore.
Right.
But good news. I mean, you're not... You don't appear to be turning into metal. I mean, you kind of look at yourself. You're not really seeing any signs of anything of that nature.
Praetor Katax, if I might ask, how long does this process normally take?
Well, honestly, I'm a little bit concerned and excited. When this sort of thing happened before, well, the person in question, or you in this instance, they turned within minutes. It's easily been...
Minutes.
Minutes, yes.
Well, it's been significantly longer. So there's something that is either impeding its progress, or perhaps it's just not as potent inside the ship.
Well, that is something that is, I guess, good about this situation. What I neglected to say earlier before we were, well, interrupted, is that, the metal, you can resist the metal, you can ignore the metal, but it's kind of like a voice in the back of your head. It's just constantly whispering, and I've learned to ignore it, but, well, if you're not hearing a whisper in the back of your head, that's actually a good sign, because
So
that's
it'll
usually
be-
the first symptom.
So it'll be just like having my siblings back at home.
Ah, you have siblings.
Many. Denobulans have rather large families, actually.
Interesting, interesting. My species, well, it's actually odd. I don't remember the name of my original species, but I do remember that we were actually rather loners. We kind of came and traveled space alone. As far as I know, I'm the only one of my species, or new species, on this planet.
That sounds like a very sad existence. Not
It-
to be rude.
No, it's an apt summary. And at this point, Trawl, because we need to figure out two things here. We need to see if the doctor's gotten in contact with you, and whether or not the doctor's gotten in contact with Nabak. So, Trawl, how does your control and con look here, or control and command even?
Control and con is pretty good.
Okay. Give me a control and a con, difficulty of 3, and I'll even give you a shuttle assist with its communications and command here. Difficulty of 3. If you succeed, you get through to the doctor.
Everyone okay if I take 4 dice on this one?
4? Isn't it 3?
Or
3
take-
momentum for 4
mo-
dice.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, no help from the shuttle, unfortunately.
And then would Starfleet protocol perhaps applicable?
Actually would, yes. And there's your 3. So, what this is going to mean is that Nabak, you get a chirp on your comm badge.
Chief Nabak here.
This is Dr. Rel. Is everything all right, Nabak? I just got a Morse code message from one of our shuttles that I'm assuming contains Kaya, Trawl, and Shrev. They appear to be going on some sort of away mission, but I understand you're still in the lounge with the Praetor?
That is correct, Doctor. I find it slightly alarming that the captain is going on a mission, but be that as it may, we have a situation here.
Yeah,
Containment has been breached.
that was going to be my question. Tell me, are you feeling all right? Are you turning into metal?
Not that I've noticed.
Okay, that's promising. We had there was a container or two in the cargo bay E that was not on the manifest, and case in point, it had organic material, and we noticed it was beginning to corrupt, so we vented the whole place and sterilized it. But that took minutes. My understanding is you've been exposed to the Praetor for 15 plus minutes at this point,
That is correct.
and you feel fine. No metal.
As it stands, yes.
Well, I don't want to say that's good news, but it's the most positive thing I've heard so far.
Well, that's good.
Now, what's your medical background? What is that like?
My medical background is primarily, well, as you know, denobulans don't sleep particularly much. We don't need to. And so I have been studying medicine in my spare time and doing some practice while I was on the Asclepius. I took up medicine after a while, so I'm not. I wouldn't say I'm in any means a medical professional, but I have more than a passing understanding.
How are you at viral or virology? How are you at xenobiology?
My primary focus was dealing with emergency trauma. My main focus was to prevent crew death, but I did a little bit of reading on virology. It was interesting. I don't know that I would recall a lot, but if given the right information, I may be able to bring myself back up to speed.
Well, I hope you like reading, because you're about to do the most reading you're ever going to do in your whole life. I'm going to beam in, and he kind of shouts, "We can beam in, right?" Yes. All right. We're going to beam in a lot of equipment and a lot of reading for you, Nabak. I suggest you do your due diligence. And if you do start turning into metal, I would tell you to cut off the fending section. But if you are turning into metal, it's probably
It may
going to be
not
too
make a
quick to do that.
difference.
Yeah.
Well, is there anything that I need to do to set up the equipment to begin scanning or experiments? Perhaps maybe if Praetor, you would permit a scan of the Praetor, that before I begin reading, I could begin those steps.
And the Praetor nods and says, of course, whatever I can do to help. And Rel says, all right, well, yeah, we'll beam it in a functional state. Good luck.
Thank you, Doctor.
All right. Before we cut back to the away team, Nabak, very important role. I need you to do and let me actually say what happens here first before I do the roll. So after maybe not even 30 seconds, equipment begins beaming into the lounge. And we're talking things like glorified chemistry sets. We're seeing things like even like a miniature biobed, like a foldable biobed. They're giving you as much medical equipment that that Dr. Rel thinks you can deal with in a very short time. So after maybe about a minute of beaming of equipment, you have a small laboratory here before you. And as you go to pick up one of the medical tricorders, this is where I'm going to need a reason medicine, and this will be a difficulty of 5. And this is to scan the Praetor. But if you have anything related to xenobiology, to virology, or anything like that, you would get it as a focus.
All I've got is emergency medicine.
All right. Which means it is going to be very difficult, unfortunately. Your only crit
This is an
would be a
emergency.
1.
I think this
is an
counts.
I mean, it is an emergency, but
it's not like
medicine. It's not like triage.
Yeah, it's not triage, unfortunately. So you have 2
I have a
momentum
wider
right now.
understanding of the word triage, but go on.
Yeah.
Anyways, you've got 2 momentum right now, which pretty much means that if you don't spend determination, like you would have to challenge a value or get the captain to give you their determination, you're looking at needing to give me at least 2 threats so that you can roll a couple dice, or roll 4 dice here to even have a shot at this.
Think I'll give you the threat.
Okay.
As much
I
as
don't
that
have
kind
any
of pains me.
determination left to give. I already gave one.
That's right. You did already give it. So, yeah. So how much threat do you want to give me there, Peter? Do you want to give me for 4 dice or 5 dice? For the record, 5 dice would give me 4 threat. 4 dice would give me 1 threat.
You would have to roll a 1 on one of those 4 dice in order to pass the difficulty 5 test. So,
All right, let's give you all the threat.
All the threat. Noted.
So I'm rolling
5
dice now.
All 5.
Okay. As Sam Gamgee says, there's nothing for it.
I mean, I believe the wrong direction.
Yeah.
Peter has rolled yet another complication. This is the
Okay.
thing.
Let me see if I've got anything that.
Do you have any I'm going to look at your talents. There's got to be something we could do here. Hold on.
There doesn't have to be.
I mean, I've got when attempting a task, but that's when 2 or more characters are involved, and it's just me.
Nah, yeah, parent figure isn't going to help you here. Collaboration engineering is not going to help you because this isn't engineering. You're not doing maintenance. You're not learning
And
about a
I'm
new
not-
culture.
And I'm not working with the crew. It's just me.
I think your only option here is you're going to have to challenge a value and use the determination to reroll those 2 zeros. Otherwise, you will fail with a complication.
I will challenge the value. Lower decks is where the real stuff gets done because I am relying on everyone, especially the doctor and the other officers, to make sure this happens.
All right. So, of course, cross that out and at some point go back and replace it. But For now, you can re-roll as many dice as you wish. I would recommend at least the 2. Well, they're not
That's-
complications.
But they're still not good.
No, unfortunately, that is only 4 successes.
Could I argue for something?
Sure, what you got?
Considering that the doctor has actually stated that he will be guiding the cob through the process, could he assist with a presence medicine?
All right, Rel. Give me an assist. Presence medicine. 1 die. 1 shot, 1 opportunity.
Do not miss your chance to blow.
Mm-hmm.
Mom spaghetti.
So much spaghetti. So much spaghetti.
It's not a complication.
Yeah, I mean, that's the positive here. So, Nabak, I'm going to actually say that your scan of the Praetor is unfortunately inconclusive. I mean, you still get biological data off of them, but you don't get a medical breakthrough, which is unfortunate, but we'll roll forward anyway. But again, not hearing a voice, not metal, so you got that going for you.
Apparently, I'm not getting much in the tricorder, but we can at least crack open the books, as they say, and begin attempting to move forward.
Well, let me know if there's anything I could do to help.
Certainly, Praetor. If you have any other ideas that spring to mind while we're going through this, I'm open to it.
And I think they just sort of nod at that, and you start your reading. We go back to the shuttle interior at this point. So for you all, you 3 in the shuttle, are you going to the planet's surface, or are you going to the skyhook? Because I think there were 2 separate destinations that both had good ideas, and I want to make sure I have the right one in mind.
My understanding was that we were, because of the limited nature of the sensors on the Type 6 shuttlecraft, that we were going to the skyhook to examine its mining mechanism, right? To try to determine where this fault line, as it were, of Icor is, right?
Got it. All right. So that's what I thought. I just wanted to be sure.
And then from there, going towards that, right?
Got it.
If
All right.
I could ask something as we're piloting the shuttle away from the ship.
Mm-hmm.
As I'm looking out at the flock of creatures that have convened around the vessel,
Mm-hmm.
can I make out any other kinds of radio transmissions that are yoking them to something on the ship, like the Praetor or Nabok? In other words, do I see that there's some kind of radio signal or communication or an energy field, anything abnormal, yoking them together?
Go ahead and roll me a insight and science difficulty 0. All right, 3 successes means 3 momentum. So what you're noticing, and I do see that complication in chat, don't worry. What you're noticing is that the drones are all bouncing between one another, but they're also bouncing from the oceans themselves, as if the oceans are transmitting the master signal.
And is that signal penetrating into the ship?
Does not appear to be, no.
Captain, I think I might actually have a supposition, at least, regarding the source of the Icor, or at least a lead. I'm picking up, a radio signal, very much like the one that the Praetor was using to control her drones. It's emanating from the planet itself, its oceans, and perhaps controlling that entire flock of, drones. Don't have an explanation, but that's a lead.
Well, that's the best one that we've had so far. Right. Let's see how seaworthy this vessel actually is.
Real quick, did you still want to scan the skyhook, or?
I mean, yeah, on the way. Why not?
All right. So, as you fly towards the end of the skyhook, where there's the ram scoop that is scooping up atmosphere of the planet, what you're noticing is that, strangely enough, the scoop itself is not only harvesting the atmosphere, but it's also harvesting some of the rain and some of the liquid that is present just in the air. Because, again, it's raining heavily here. It's raining down the ichor that is causing this corruption. So, when you do notice this, you also notice that there are a few drones that are just attacking the ram scoop. They're not really doing much damage, if any at all, but they are attacking the ram scoop all the same.
I would like to get a specific scan along the arm of the ram scoop to see if there are any weakened areas.
Okay, go ahead and roll me a reason security assisted by the ship's or the shuttle's sensors security here. A difficulty of 1. And I'm going to say the complication here is that your sensors are going to be inoperable if you roll a complication. So it's a complication to cause a complication, if that makes any sense.
I'm going to spend 1 momentum
Okay.
and investigation for a focus.
Would apply. Well, that's what we call a complication. Well, I have good news and bad news. Which do you want first?
Did our determination refill going into this?
That would be a no.
Let's start with the bad.
Okay. Bad. You get your 1 sensor scan off, but your sensors are gone. You're now flying visually.
Cool.
Oh,
Wins.
What have you done to my sensors?
I didn't mean to.
Lieutenant Commander, I don't even wear a phaser. I left mine back on the shuttle when we went on our away mission. I don't pretend to do your job. Next time, let me do mine.
For sake of argument, this is the same shuttle you were in before. So the multiple impacts being dropped from height, it's finally caught up to the sensors.
And also, tactical scans are my job. It's not my fault that we were sent back to a damaged shuttle.
Is this line of conversation at all fruitful?
What's the good news?
The good news is that I'm going to tell you, and if you don't get it, I'll actually make it more clear, but I want you to look specifically at the 3rd bullet point of the Purgatory Skyhook Details handout. And I want you to read very, very carefully those first 2 sentences. Actually, sorry, it's the 4th bullet point. So 4th bullet point, first 2 sentences. And that is what your sensor scan is going to tell you. And once you read it, make sure to reiterate it for the class. But all the answers you seek are in those sentences. And yeah, while you do that. So yeah, chat. Welcome to hell. This is a thing. The planet is alive. Yes, you are onto something. Do you need a hint there? Do you
Yeah.
Okay. The hint is that when the liquid comes into contact with the special plating and the way that the monotanium that makes up the ram scoop's hull and the skyhook tethers, the monotanium seems to be repelling the liquid.
Captain, it seems that the monotanium in the skyhook's construction is keeping this Iker from interfering or damaging the ram scoop arm. It might be possible to sabotage this system and destroy the arm, which would cease any harvesting.
I see. Now, if I'm following your line of logic correctly, this device is meddling with the planet, and the planet may be responding in kind?
It's possible.
I'm willing to follow along on that assumption. Target that ram scoop and get it done.
Captain, if I might interject for just a moment, perhaps, if possible, we could beam a small sample of the monotanium on board. If it repels the liquid itself, maybe there's some kind of clue in there, if I analyze it properly, that might develop a defense or perhaps even some kind of cure or vaccine for the transformation process that is affected by the material.
We can do both.
I hate to be the bearer of bad news, but you don't have transporters.
I was actually referring
We do
to
have a
using the
tractor beam.
Right, but how are you getting it into the shuttle is what I'm getting at here.
We don't have to get it in the shuttle. We just have to get it into the bay.
And the Kasumi has transporters, so we can just comm back to them. And
Oh, I
ask
see
them
what
to
you're
do so.
doing now. I thought you were like trying to do something where you were gonna like take a chunk and then somehow get it in the back of the shuttle. And was like, how is this happening?
Yeah, that would be ridiculous.
The other thing, does this shuttle have weapons on it?
It does. It actually does have, I believe, a phaser on it. Let me check. Let me check the sheet because I remember doing the sheet. Yeah, actually, you do have Type 4 phaser banks on it.
All right, so let's shear off a sample, catch it with a tractor beam, get it taken care of, and then sabotage this arm.
All right. So, Trawl, remember when I said you don't have sensors and you're flying manually? Well, you're shooting
Yep.
manually too. So, difficulty of 3, control security, assisted by the shuttle's weapons security. I need to see 3 successes here. No complications. Just 3 successes. You can do that, right? Right.
Hopefully.
right. Mhm.
Shipboard tactical systems.
Yes.
And I'm
no
going
help
to
from the shuttle.
give you 1 momentum.
1 momentum. All right.
Well, one threat.
No, 1 momentum specifically because I have cautious security and I keep forgetting about that.
Okay, don't even need it. You get your 3 successes. So, what I'm now going to need you to do me is roll me the damage on the phasers, which I believe is 3 challenge dice.
Yes.
And I need to see... Okay. Now, it is versatile too, and what I'm going to tell you is if you spend the 2 versatile momentum on piercing, you're going to get your sample.
I will spend it on piercing then.
All right. So, again, manually targeting out of the shuttle's front view window, you fire out a small scalpel-like phaser burst, carve out a section of the monotanium, catch it in a tractor beam, and capture it in such a way that it's not going to go anywhere. You are able to transport it.
We have the sample size, Doctor.
Very good. Can we contact the Kasumi and just have them beam it to one of the science labs?
Well, I'll tell you what, if you give me 1 momentum, 1 threat, you can have the advantage that communications are back. It is something you can do.
No, we'll just carry that along with us in the tractor beam. We'll return to the
Why
ship
not?
eventually. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. I always try to make these situations because I like reminding players that advantages and narrative declarations are kind of the same thing. So this is one of my ways to teach you that you could, spend the momentum and just make it happen, kind of a thing. But yeah, I think what we're going to do now is we're going to go back to the lounge. At this point, Mr. Nabok, you have done quite a lot of reading. And to say it feels like cramming for an exam is an understatement. Someone has basically thrown Grey's Anatomy at you, and it's not going well.
I haven't had to read this much material this quickly while attempting to retain it since the academy, I think.
Well, I've tried to do a little reading of my own here, and he holds up one of the pads you gave him, and he says, I don't pretend to know what it's talking about, but, it says here you Denobulans have a different immune system than most?
We do. It's actually quite, robust.
Is it due to a certain part of your anatomy? Is it because you have a good T cell, or what is this called? A white blood cell? What is it that makes your immune system so unique?
Out of character? I forget.
Oh, that's okay. I do too. You can totally make something up. Because I actually don't think in canon there's a reason for it. They just say, "Oh, my immune system is great."
Yeah, I don't think there's an explanation for it. Actually, yes, it is. It does have something to do with the T memory cells, and where they adapt quite quickly, and then immediately multiply. It's a very swift response. I'm sure there's other bits, but that is what I remember.
Hold on. Can you take a sample of your T cells for me?
Why, certainly. I pull out a hypo spray and
get your sample. He holds out a hand for the hypo spray, and then he takes it, kind of looks at it, shrugs, injects himself, and
I wasn't expecting that.
I think immediately what you notice is that paranoia, that sense of paranoia that you'd been feeling since the skyhook, gone. Like light being turned off, gone.
Do you feel any different, Praetor?
Well, I do feel as if a weight has been lifted off of my shoulders, yes.
Because once you did that, I noticed something. As I was quite concerned. The proper term in this culture is paranoia, and that seems to be different. So we may have to run another scan on you to see if clearly something has changed.
Well, go ahead.
Okay. I will run another scan. I assume that this is also going to be difficult, but...
Actually, no. This is going to be a reason medicine difficulty of 0.
Oh, cool.
All right. Hey, 2 momentum. So it's not like you're going to just magically cure the Praetor, but you conceivably have found a way to stop the spread of whatever the hell was degrading your suit. Basically, what I'm telling you is he had an aura, you turned off the aura.
Interesting. This is at least a step in the correct direction, I believe. I'm going to tap my comm badge and contact the doctor.
Dr. Relher, go ahead.
Doctor, I, through happenstance, we seem to have stumbled upon I wouldn't quite call it a breakthrough, but we have beneficial information.
Go ahead.
The Praetor and I were just talking about denobulan physiology, and the the fact that I have a robust immune system came up, and we extracted some of my T cells to examine them, and the Praetor, injected them into himself, and it seems to have made a difference. There is no longer an aura effect towards either of us. I am not sensing the normal psychological effects that we have been experiencing in this location.
I feel like that's out of my area of expertise, but hey, it sounds like good news. Shuttle's back, by the way. Looks like they're carrying some form of... Hold on. And a call goes to the shuttle at this point, to Kaya, Troll, and Trev. And it's basically a conference call at this point, so you guys can talk freely. Hey, Captain. I see you brought a chunk of metal back. What's up with that?
It seems like this monotanium, the plating that's on the ram scoop of the skyhook, is actually repelling the ichor, as it were. Dr. Sharev rightly suggested that we get a sample of this material and see if we can't reverse engineer a kind of protection against it.
Wait, monotanium. Isn't that, like, super hard to get through? Nabok, isn't that super hard to get through, monotanium?
Generally speaking, yes.
Must be some alloy we don't know about then. Sorry, I don't mean to interrupt. What do you want us to do with the sample, Captain?
Like I said, if there's any way that we can reverse engineer it to create some kind of protection against the ichor, either in terms of replicating the material as a kind of barrier or, various science-related things. It's not really my point of expertise.
No, I get what you're going at, Captain. I mean, it can't get any worse. Just let's try to beam it to Nabok and see what Nabok can do about it.
Or, well, actually, never mind. Let's limit exposure. I was thinking that perhaps it would be beneficial to have extra engineers so that I can focus on the medical side, but we'll do what we can.
Minutes later, chunk of metal is beamed in, and you now have a chunk of metal to work with.
Nice.
So I'm going to walk up to it, obviously, and probably move it closer to my scanners, medical equipment. I assume I have to pick it up. Does anything happen when I pick it up?
Feels like cold metal.
Okay. Explodes.
Yes. Yes, it explodes. The Kasumi dies. Everyone goes home. No. It's just cold metal. I mean, literally, it's just a very smooth metal. Doesn't really have any blemishes other than, like, the edges where it was cut with the phaser.
Well, we'll do a quick scan of this, see if it's not malleable in a way that we can use, or at least a temporary shield until we get everything else figured out. Praetor, would you give me a hand with this?
And the Praetor reaches out to help you with this, and he maybe brushes a hand against the metal, and then he immediately pulls it back and hisses like, "Ooh, that burns. Ooh."
Was curious about that. I apologize.
Well, hold on. What is that metal?
It is, we call it monotanium, although it might have slightly different properties because normally our tools cannot separate it.
Oh.
Are you familiar with this metal, Praetor?
It's what the skyhook is made out of, yes?
Yes, that is correct.
Well, it's just a theory, but worst case, you could lock us up in monotanium suits, and we'd be able to leave the place.
That is an option. I would prefer the biological solution if possible, but the metallic engineering solution would be workable.
Since we are nearing the end of our time together tonight, I did want to ask a question here. I think if I were to railroad you guys a little bit harder, and I know I'm railroading you guys, for which I apologize, but I feel like if I railroad you guys a little bit harder, we can finish, but it's going to be very contrived. Like, it's not going to be a good payoff. It's literally going to be, kind of a, oh, and you do this and you win kind of a thing. I don't mind making this a three-parter, but I do want everybody to weigh in on that because I know I'm already pushing how much I feel I can railroad you guys. Like, what is everybody's vibe at this point? I want to make sure everybody's having a good time.
I don't mind if we push this into a three-parter.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm fine with that. I mean, just stretching it out's good.
I mean, that's just more opportunity to fuck up more roles in the future. So
I mean, there's
why
that
not?
too.
Okay. All right, then that's what we're going to do. We're going to make it a three-parter. That might mean that next week is a little bit shorter, but we'll see what happens. But yeah, this is where I'll end the recording for YouTube, but Twitch, stick around because we're going to rate somebody.